The phone rang 3 times before Giannis answered. It was 12:11 a.m. on a freezing Tuesday night in Milwaukee. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft tick of the clock on the kitchen wall. Giannis had just returned from another victory, a hard-fought game against Miami where he had dropped 41 points and carried the Bucks to another win. His body was sore, his mind still buzzing with the echo of the crowd, but for the first time all day, he felt calm. He poured himself a glass of water, leaned against the counter and exhaled. Then the phone lit up. Thanasis. A small smile crossed his face. His older brother rarely called this late unless it was something important, usually to joke about a missed dunk or share a meme that made no sense. He picked up immediately. "Yo, bro, what's up? Couldn't sleep again?" But what came next wasn't laughter. It was breathing, uneven, shaky. The kind of breathing that tells you before words even arrive that something is wrong. "Giannis!" Thanasis' voice cracked. "Bro, are you okay? Where are you?" There was a pause, too long to be normal. Then, "I need your help." Giannis straightened up, the casual smile vanishing from his face. "What happened? Talk to me." It's not about basketball," Thanasis whispered. "It's about my life." The words hit like cold metal against skin. Giannis's heart started pounding so hard he could hear it echo in his ears. He grabbed his car keys instinctively without knowing where to go yet. "Thanasis, what are you talking about? Did something happen? Are you hurt?" "I'm at the hospital," his brother said finally. The sound of machines beeped faintly in the background through the phone. "They said it's bad. Worse than we thought." Giannis froze mid-step, the keys trembling in his hand. "What do you mean worse than we thought? You said it was just a bruise." There was a muffled sob on the other end. "It's not just a bruise anymore, Giannis. They said it might be my spine." For a few seconds, the entire world seemed to go silent. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, even his own breath. Gone. All that remained was the weight of those words sinking into him like stones through deep water. His brother's voice broke again. "They don't know if I'll ever walk again." Giannis felt the ground disappear beneath him. His legs went weak and the glass in his hand slipped, shattering against the tile floor. The sound barely registered. His mind was somewhere else, replaying the image of Thanasis diving for a loose ball during the second quarter, the collision, the fall, the crowd going silent. At the time, it looked bad, but not this bad. He had told himself injuries happen, that it was nothing more than a dislocated shoulder or a concussion. But now... "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." "Giannis," Thanasis said through sobs, "I don't know what to do. They want to transfer me to Chicago for surgery. The doctors here say it's my spinal cord. I'm scared, bro. I'm really scared." Giannis pressed the phone tighter to his ear, eyes filling with tears. "I'm coming," he said, his voice trembling but firm. "I'm coming right now." And as he grabbed his coat and ran into the cold Milwaukee night, one thought looped endlessly in his mind, the same thought that would haunt and define every moment that followed. This wasn't a game anymore. This was the night everything changed. The arena had been packed that night, 20,000 voices roaring under bright white lights, the sound of sneakers squeaking on polished hardwood, the smell of sweat and adrenaline hanging in the air. It was supposed to be an ordinary mid-season game, nothing more. The Bucks were facing Miami in what everyone expected to be another routine victory. Giannis was locked in from the start, focused, calm, the rhythm of the game pulsing through him like electricity. But on the bench, Thanasis was restless, impatient, his hands trembling slightly. He had always been the emotional spark, the fire to Giannis's quiet storm. When Coach Griffin finally called his name midway through the second quarter, Thanasis sprinted onto the court like a man unleashed. The crowd roared. He'd been waiting for this. The first few possessions were pure energy, diving for loose balls, chasing rebounds, shouting encouragement to teammates. And then it happened. With 4:12 left in the quarter, Miami's guard drove hard to the rim. Thanasis slid over to help, feet set, chest up. The collision echoed like a car crash. His body twisted mid-air, his head snapping backward before he hit the floor. The sound, that sickening thud, silenced the entire arena. For a second, everyone thought he'd get up. He always did. Thanasis was the kind of player who smiled through bruises, who laughed off pain, but this time he didn't move. Giannis stood frozen near the baseline, eyes locked on his brother's motionless body. The referees waved for medical staff. Players stepped back, some kneeling, others praying under their breath. The arena that had been a storm of sound seconds ago was now so quiet you could hear the distant hum of the ceiling lights. Giannis took a step forward, but the trainers blocked him. "Stay back, Giannis, let us work." He couldn't breathe. His heart was hammering inside his chest. He saw them stabilize Thanasis's neck, carefully lifting him onto a stretcher, his arms limp at his sides. The oxygen mask covered his face, but Giannis could see his brother's lips trying to move. He mouthed something, just one word: "Brother." The moment burned into Giannis's mind like fire. As they wheeled him off the court, Giannis followed until security stopped him at the tunnel. Cameras caught his face, the fear, the disbelief, the kind of raw emotion that doesn't belong in a game. He stayed in the locker room after that, fully dressed but staring at nothing. He ignored the reporters, the assistant coaches, even the post-game briefing. When the team doctor came in to give the first report, possible spinal trauma, being taken to St. Mary's Medical Center, Giannis just nodded. He finished the game mechanically, but he didn't remember a single basket after that moment. He played like a ghost, moving on instinct alone. Every cheer from the crowd sounded far away. After the final buzzer, he went straight to the hospital. Cameras followed him all the way to the parking lot, but he didn't care. His teammates called after him, "G, you okay?" But he didn't answer. He just drove through the night, past the city lights, gripping the steering wheel until his hands hurt. Inside the hospital, the sterile smell of disinfectant hit him instantly. Sharp, cold, too clean to feel real. Nurses recognized him, whispered, but he barely noticed. He found the emergency room doors and pushed through them. Thanasis was inside. Machines beeped rhythmically around his bed. A cervical brace held his neck rigid. His eyes were open, but his body didn't move. "Hey," Giannis whispered, stepping closer. "You scared me, man." Thanasis tried to smile. His lips trembled. "I can't feel my legs." Giannis froze. "What do you mean you can't feel?" But before he could finish, a doctor entered. A tall man with tired eyes and a voice that had clearly delivered too many difficult truths. "Mr. Antetokounmpo," he began gently, "your brother suffered a severe spinal contusion during the fall. We've stabilized him, but there's swelling pressing against the spinal cord." "How bad?" Giannis asked. His voice cracked halfway through the question. "We won't know the full extent until the swelling subsides," the doctor said carefully. "But right now, there's no motor response below the waist." Giannis felt the words crush him like weight he couldn't carry. The room started spinning. He leaned against the wall, staring at his brother, this man who had been his protector, his motivator, his shadow since childhood, now lying helpless beneath white hospital lights. Thanasis's eyes glistened. "Gee," he whispered, "what if this is it? What if I never walk again?" Giannis shook his head violently. "Don't say that. You hear me? Don't say that." But deep down, behind the stubborn hope in his voice, a cold fear took root. The kind of fear that doesn't leave, that changes everything it touches. The hours that followed were a blur. Doctors, tests, silence, paperwork. Giannis never left the room. When dawn broke, he was still sitting there, elbows on his knees, staring at the heart monitor's steady beeping line. Somewhere deep in his chest, something shifted. He wasn't thinking about basketball anymore. Not about stats, contracts, or championships, only about one question that kept looping in his mind over and over again. What is glory worth if the person who helped you build it can never stand beside you again? The sun had already risen over Milwaukee, but inside the hospital, time had lost all meaning. The white fluorescent lights erased any sense of morning or night. Giannis sat in the same chair he'd occupied since dawn, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor tiles. The coffee in the paper cup beside him had gone cold hours ago. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. Thanasis falling, the crash, the stillness. The door creaked open and a doctor entered, accompanied by a nurse holding a clipboard. The man's name tag read Dr. Harris, neurosurgery. His expression carried that delicate mix of professionalism and pity that Giannis had come to fear. "Giannis," he began softly, taking the chair across from him. "We've reviewed the scans. I won't sugarcoat it." Giannis's hands tightened together, knuckles white. "Tell me, the impact caused a severe compression at the T7 vertebra. There's swelling around the spinal cord and a partial tear. Right now, your brother has no voluntary movement below the waist. We'll need to perform surgery to relieve the pressure. Today, if possible." Giannis's throat went dry. "And after that?" Dr. Harris sighed. "It depends on how the spinal cord responds. Best case scenario, we'll see gradual recovery over months, maybe years. Worst case," he paused, looking down at the chart, before meeting Giannis's eyes again. "He may never walk again." Those words felt like a knife twisting in Giannis's chest. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. His fingers dug into his knees as if trying to anchor himself to reality. Thanasis's voice from the bed broke the silence. "So, I'm officially benched, huh?" His attempt at humor was weak, his lips barely curving into a smile. Giannis turned toward him, eyes glassy. "Don't joke about that, bro." Thanasis blinked slowly. "If I don't joke, I'll cry." The nurse adjusted his IV line, her eyes full of compassion. "We'll do everything we can," she said quietly. Giannis stood up suddenly, pacing across the room. "What can I do? There has to be something. Therapy, medication, surgery, whatever it takes." Dr. Harris nodded. "We'll operate today, then start rehabilitation immediately after. But you should prepare yourself. Recovery, if it happens, will take months. It's not something that can be rushed, and it will require full-time commitment." Giannis nodded, though the words barely registered. His mind was running on instinct, on guilt. When the doctor and nurse left, the silence between the brothers grew heavier. The heart monitor beeped rhythmically, each tone a reminder that life still pulsed inside that fragile body. "Do you remember Athens?" Thanasis asked suddenly. "That broken outdoor court near our old apartment?" Giannis looked up. "Of course. We used to play barefoot." Thanasis chuckled faintly. "You were so skinny the wind could knock you over. Mum used to yell every time you fell. Said you'd break your bones before you ever made it to America." Giannis smiled for half a second, a fleeting flash of warmth that died almost instantly. "And now look at us." "Yeah," Thanasis said softly. "Now look at us." The conversation ended there. They didn't need more words. Hours later, Giannis sat in the surgical waiting area, surrounded by the quiet murmur of machines and the smell of antiseptic. He rubbed his hands together compulsively, staring at the clock. Every second felt like a drop of water falling in an endless cave. He thought about their journey. Two brothers from Sepolia selling sunglasses on the streets to help their mother buy food. He thought about the days they'd shared one pair of sneakers to practice, taking turns with each other. He thought about how they promised, no matter what, they would make it together. And now, the same brother who once carried him on his back was lying under anesthesia, his future hanging by a thread. At 5:47 p.m., the surgery doors opened. Dr. Harris stepped out, surgical mask hanging around his neck. His face was hard to read. Giannis jumped to his feet. "How did it go?" "The surgery went as planned," the doctor said. "We stabilized the spine and relieved the pressure. He's in recovery now, but Giannis felt his stomach drop. "What?" Dr. Harris hesitated before continuing. "There's still no movement. The damage to the cord might be more severe than we hoped. We'll have to wait a few days to know more." Giannis swallowed hard, nodding. "Can I see him?" "In a few minutes." When he finally entered the recovery room, Thanasis looked pale, eyes half open, voice barely audible. "Hey," he whispered, "you still here?" "I'm not going anywhere." "Good," Thanasis murmured, "because I'm going to need a pretty good cheerleader for the next few months." Giannis forced a smile, but inside he was falling apart. That night, he didn't go home. He stayed by the hospital bed, his large frame folded into a plastic chair. The nurses offered him blankets, food, water. He refused all of it. His mind was somewhere else, caught in a loop of what-ifs. What if he had noticed the signs earlier? What if he'd told him to rest that night? What if it had been him instead? At some point, his phone buzzed. Messages from teammates, reporters, even the team manager, praying for Thanasis. "Take care, G. Media's going wild, bro." Giannis put the phone face down on the table and stared at his brother's still form. Outside, the snow started falling again, quiet and relentless. Through the hospital window, the city lights blurred into streaks of gold and white, and somewhere deep inside him, a decision began to form, silent but solid. He didn't know how or what it would take, but he wasn't going to let his brother's story end here. Not on this hospital bed, not while he still had breath in his body. The announcement came 3 days later, on a quiet Friday morning. Snow blanketed Milwaukee in thick silence, the kind of stillness that precedes big news. Giannis had spent the night at the hospital again, barely speaking, his mind set. When he finally looked up at the small TV in the corner of the room, ESPN was running a segment called "Will Giannis Walk Away?" He turned off the sound. He didn't need to hear it. He already knew his answer. At 10 a.m., he walked into the press room of Fiserv Forum. Cameras flashed immediately, the rapid clicks echoing like gunfire. Reporters had been waiting for days, their notebooks ready, their questions sharpened. Giannis stood at the podium, wearing a black hoodie and no expression. The usual PR team had prepared a written statement, but he ignored it. He didn't want something clean or polished. He wanted something real. "I won't be playing for the rest of the season," he said quietly. The room erupted in murmurs. He waited until they calmed down, then continued. "My brother Thanasis is fighting to recover after his spinal injury. He needs me. I'm going to be with him, not as a player, but as a brother." A journalist in the front row raised her hand. "Giannis, does that mean you're stepping away from basketball completely?" Giannis nodded slowly. "For now, yes. Basketball gave me everything, but family gave me life." Another reporter called out, "What about your sponsors, your team, the playoffs?" He looked directly at the crowd. "You can replace a player. You can't replace a brother." That line hit the room like thunder. Cameras froze, pens stopped moving. It wasn't a quote for headlines. It was truth. Behind the curtain, his coach stood with his arms crossed, eyes wet. He knew what this meant, not just for the team, but for the man in front of him. The MVP, the franchise, the leader, choosing love over legacy. By noon, the news had spread across the world. Breaking. Giannis Antetokounmpo leaves NBA indefinitely to care for injured brother. Some fans praised his decision, others couldn't believe it. But for Giannis, none of that mattered. That afternoon, he sat beside Thanasis, who was still connected to machines that beeped steadily in rhythm. When Giannis told him what he'd done, Thanasis shook his head weakly. Bro, no, you didn't have to do that. I did, Giannis said. We started this dream together. I'm not living it without you. Thanasis's eyes filled with tears. You're giving up everything. Giannis took his hand. No, I'm giving it back to the person who helped me build it. A nurse entered then, holding a clipboard. Dr. Moreno confirmed your transfer. The flight to Athens is tomorrow morning. Athens. The word felt sacred. It wasn't just home. It was where everything began. The cracked concrete courts, the smell of grilled corn in the streets, the sound of their mother singing softly after long days of work. It was where they learned hunger, hope, and humility. The next morning, at the Milwaukee airport, cameras waited again. Giannis walked slowly beside the wheelchair carrying his brother. Flashbulbs lit up the glass walls. Fans shouted his name, holding up banners that read, "Family over fame." He didn't wave, he didn't smile. He just kept walking, focused, calm, holding the wheelchair handles with both hands, like he was holding the weight of his entire life. Reporters yelled questions as they boarded. "Giannis, will you come back?" He paused briefly before turning his head just enough for the microphones to catch his words. "When he walks again, I will too." It wasn't a metaphor. It was a promise. The flight to Greece was long and quiet. Thanasis slept most of the way, his body still fragile, but his face peaceful. Giannis stayed awake, looking out the window at the endless clouds beneath them. Somewhere over the Atlantic, he thought about the first time they left Athens, chasing a dream in the opposite direction. Now, years later, they were returning not for fame, but for healing. When the plane landed in Athens, the air felt different, warmer, familiar. The smell of the sea mixed with diesel and coffee drifted through the airport. Crowds of people had gathered outside, locals, fans, even kids from the same neighborhoods they grew up in. They chanted their names not like heroes, but like family. Giannis lowered his head, overwhelmed. The noise, the faces, the emotion. It was too much. He hadn't realized how much of his heart still belonged to this place. As they left the airport, a reporter managed to ask one final question. "Giannis, what's the goal now?" He stopped for a moment, eyes glistening. "To stand again, both of us." Then he pushed the wheelchair forward, the crowd parting around them. The cameras followed, the flash of light painting them like silhouettes against the golden Greek sun. Two brothers, one broken body, one unbreakable bond, walking into the unknown together. The air in Athens felt alive, thicker, warmer, filled with the smells of roasted chestnuts and salt from the sea. When Giannis stepped off the plane, the sunlight hit his face like a memory. For a moment, he wasn't the MVP, the global star, or the man carrying the weight of a nation on his shoulders. He was just a boy again, a barefoot kid running through the streets of Sepolia with his brothers, chasing dreams bigger than the city itself. Thanasis sat beside him in the wheelchair, eyes scanning the skyline. "Smells like home," he said softly. Giannis smiled faintly. "Smells like everything we used to be." They were met at the medical facility by Dr. Moreno and a small Greek team of therapists who had followed their story in the news. The center overlooked the Aegean Sea, white walls bathed in gold light. It wasn't a hospital. It felt more like a place built for rebirth. The first session was quiet. Dr. Moreno explained the program: hydrotherapy, electrical muscle stimulation, and a new experimental approach using neural feedback. "It won't be easy," she warned. "There will be pain. Some days will feel hopeless. But progress is possible." Thanasis nodded. "We've lived through worse." The next weeks were a slow, exhausting rhythm of effort and silence. Giannis became both caretaker and coach, lifting his brother into the pool, guiding his arms, counting repetitions out loud. Each movement, no matter how small, became sacred. At night, They stayed in a modest apartment overlooking the same neighborhood where they grew up. Giannis would sit on the balcony, watching the kids below dribble worn-out basketballs, laughing like they once did. The echo of bouncing rubber on concrete blended with the hum of distant traffic, carrying him back to the days when they had nothing but each other. One evening, Thanasis broke the silence. "Do you remember when we used to sell sunglasses outside the metro station?" Giannis laughed softly. "Yeah, you always talked to people like you were already famous." "I had to. Someone had to believe we'd make it." Giannis turned to look at him, the golden light of sunset painting his brother's face. "You still believe?" Thanasis hesitated. "I don't know. Some days I wake up and can't feel anything below my waist. Other days, I swear I feel fire in my legs again." Giannis reached over, gripping his shoulder. "Then hold on to those days. The fire's real. I see it." They fell into silence again, watching the sky turn orange to purple. Below them, the city lights began to flicker one by one, like a constellation being reborn. Dr. Moreno's sessions grew harder. Each week she increased the intensity, longer hours, more resistance. Giannis refused to let anyone else assist. When nurses offered help, he shook his head. "He's my responsibility." At night, he would massage his brother's legs, whispering words in Greek, prayers their mother used to say when life was harder than anyone could bear. For strength, for mercy, for tomorrow. One afternoon, after a brutal therapy session, Thanasis broke down. His muscles trembled, sweat pouring down his face. "I can't do this anymore, G," he said, voice cracking. "It's useless." Giannis knelt beside him. "You remember when we couldn't afford food? When we went to practice hungry? We didn't stop then. We're not stopping now." Thanasis shook his head. "That was different. Back then I could stand." Giannis's voice hardened, steady like steel. "Then stand in your mind until your body remembers how." The words hung between them, raw, defiant, alive. That night, Giannis returned alone to the old court where everything began. The metal hoops were rusted, the paint on the ground almost gone, but the echoes were still there, laughter, struggle, hope. He sat on the cold concrete, looking up at the flickering streetlight that used to guide them home. He pulled out his phone and started recording a message. "Thanasis," he whispered, "we started here, we fell here, we rose here, and we'll stand here again." When he returned to the apartment, he found his brother awake, staring at the ceiling. Giannis played the recording out loud. Neither spoke, but both cried, quietly, with the kind of tears that cleanse more than they hurt. Outside, the wind from the sea carried the faint sound of kids playing basketball in the distance. One shouted, "Antetokounmpo!" before pretending to dunk on an invisible rim. Giannis smiled through the tears. "See? They still believe." Thanasis nodded weakly. "Then maybe I should too." And for the first time in months, when Dr. Moreno entered the next morning and asked, "Are you ready to try again?" Thanasis didn't just nod. He said it out loud. Yes. It wasn't a victory. Not yet. But it was the first spark of something that looked like one. The mornings in Athens began with light. Golden light spilling through the blinds, touching the edges of the white walls like a quiet blessing. For Giannis, it had become a kind of ritual, to wake before dawn, open the balcony door, and let the first air of the day fill the apartment. It smelled like salt, coffee, and hope. Downstairs, Thanasis waited in the rehab room. The facility was quiet, except for the low hum of machines and the rhythmic splash of water from the therapy pool. Each morning was the same. Hydrotherapy first, neural stimulation after, then hours of exercises that looked simple but felt like war. At first, there was nothing. No response, no movement, just exhaustion. The doctor said it could take months. But Giannis didn't believe in timelines. He believed in effort, in repetition, in faith, in refusing to stop even when everything hurt. He sat beside the pool, sleeves rolled up, helping the therapists hold Thanasis's torso upright. His voice filled the room, low, steady, relentless. "One more! Come on, bro, one more!" Thanasis would grit his teeth, sweat pouring down his temples. "I can't." "You can," Giannis whispered. "And you will." Sometimes they argued. Sometimes Thanasis shouted at him in frustration, slamming his fists into the water. "You don't get it. You can walk. You don't know what it's like to be trapped in your own body." Giannis didn't answer. He let the words hit, absorb, and dissolve. Then he'd say quietly, "Then let me walk for both of us until you can again." Those were the hardest days. Not the physical pain, but the silence that followed. Nights when Thanasis wouldn't speak, staring out the window, lost between anger and despair. Giannis would sit beside him, wordless, knowing that sometimes love isn't about saying the right thing. It's about staying even when nothing you say can fix it. Weeks passed. Small victories began to appear, so small they could have been missed if they weren't looking closely enough. A twitch in the left foot, a reflexive movement of the toes. Dr. Moreno noticed it first. "Look," she whispered during one session, "the signal's coming back." Giannis froze. "What do you mean?" "The neural feedback, it's responding. His nerves are starting to talk again." Thanasis looked down at his foot. It moved, barely, but it moved. He laughed and cried at the same time, his voice cracking through disbelief. "Did you see that? Gee, did you see that?" Giannis grabbed his brother's face with both hands, tears flooding his eyes. "I saw it. I saw it, bro." From that moment, everything changed. The work got harder, the sessions longer, the pain sharper, but so did the determination. They built a rhythm of survival. Mornings in the pool, afternoons on parallel bars, nights with ice packs and whispered prayers. When exhaustion hit, Giannis would play music on his phone, old Nigerian songs their father used to sing. The melodies filled the room like sunlight through cracked windows. Sometimes they laughed until they couldn't breathe. Other times, they just cried. But every day they showed up. Dr. Moreno called it miraculous progress. Thanasis called it just my brother being stubborn. 3 months in, he could stand, only for seconds, supported by braces and Giannis's hands. But those seconds felt like eternity. The first time it happened, everyone in the room froze. The silence was broken only by the sound of water dripping from the therapy pool. Thanasis looked up at his brother, breathless. "You're shaking." Giannis smiled through tears. "So are you." They laughed, holding on to each other like survivors clinging to the edge of something vast. By the 4th month, the wheelchair was gone from the apartment. Crutches replaced it. By the 5th, Thanasis was taking steps on his own. Slow, careful, trembling steps, but steps nonetheless. One night, as the city lights of Athens flickered below them, Thanasis leaned against the balcony railing, legs trembling. "You know what's crazy?" he said, looking out at the sea. "What?" "I used to pray for success. Now I just thank God for every step." Giannis nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe that's success." They stood there in silence, brothers once again side by side, not as player and injured man, but as equals in the simplest and most powerful sense of the word, alive. Word of his recovery began to spread quietly. A few photos leaked. Thanasis standing with braces, Giannis behind him holding him steady. Fans across Greece started leaving flowers at the old basketball court in Sepolia, the one where everything began. The court became a symbol. People said it looked like the earth itself was healing along with them. One morning, when Giannis arrived at therapy, he found the staff gathered in silence, tears in their eyes. On the wall, someone had hung a picture, a photo of the brothers as kids, barefoot, smiling, holding a single basketball between them. Underneath it, someone had written in Greek, "Real champions never stop rising." Giannis looked at it for a long time. Then he turned to Thanasis, who was already seated, ready for the next session. "You ready?" he asked. Thanasis grinned. "I was born ready." And with that, the two brothers, who had once climbed from the streets of Athens to the bright lights of the NBA, began climbing again. This time, not toward trophies or fame, but toward something far greater, the right to stand, to move, and to keep a promise made long before the world was watching. It happened on a Tuesday. It was always Tuesdays that carried the heaviest weight. The day the city seemed quieter, the sea a little grayer, the air heavier. That morning, Thanasis woke up different. His eyes were distant, his words short. The spark that had carried him through months of pain was gone. Giannis noticed immediately. "You okay?" he asked, handing him his breakfast. Thanasis didn't answer. He just stared at the floor. During therapy, his body refused to cooperate. His legs trembled uncontrollably, the muscles too weak to obey. When Dr. Moreno told him to take a step, he didn't move. "I can't," he muttered. "Yes, you can," Giannis said, like he always did. Thanasis snapped. "Stop saying that." The words cut the air like glass. The entire room froze. "I'm tired, Giannis. You don't get it. You walk in here every day like some hero, like this is just another game we can win if we try harder. But it's not. This is my life, my body, and it's broken." Giannis didn't respond right away. His chest tightened, but his face stayed calm. He took one slow step closer. "You're right," he said softly. "It's not a game. That's why we don't quit." Thanasis turned away, gripping the handles of the bars, tears mixing with sweat. "Maybe you should. Maybe you should go back to the NBA, to your life. I'm the one who failed, not you." Giannis felt something snap inside him. He slammed his hand on the metal railing. "Don't you ever say that again." His voice echoed off the tiled walls. "You think I care about basketball right now? About cameras or trophies? None of that means anything if you're not standing beside me." The silence that followed was suffocating. Dr. Moreno quietly stepped out of the room, leaving them alone. Thanasis sank onto the floor, legs folded awkwardly beneath him. "I'm tired, G. I can't keep fighting something I can't win." Giannis knelt down beside him, eyes glistening. "Then let me fight for both of us." Thanasis shook his head weakly. "You already gave up everything for me. Don't lose yourself too." Giannis reached forward, gripping his brother's face with both hands. "Listen to me. I'd rather lose the whole world than watch you give up on yourself." The words broke something open between them. Not anger this time, but grief. Both men sat there on the cold floor, crying quietly, the sound of waves faintly echoing through the open window. That night, Giannis stayed awake long after everyone else had gone home. He walked to the edge of the rehab center where the ocean met the cliffs. The city lights shimmered far below. He closed his eyes and whispered into the wind, "Dad, if you can hear me, I need help. I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know how to keep him believing." The breeze carried no answer, only the rhythmic crash of waves against stone. But in that silence, something stirred, not outside, but within. A memory. He saw himself as a kid again, standing in that same city, clutching a half-flat basketball. His father's voice echoed in his mind. "When one brother falls, the other becomes his legs." Giannis opened his eyes. That was the answer. The next morning, he went to therapy before Thanasis arrived. He spoke quietly to Dr. Moreno. "I want to do something different today." When Thanasis entered, expecting another session of slow repetition and frustration, he froze. Giannis was standing in the middle of the room, barefoot, no shoes, no warm-up gear, with a basketball in his hand. "What are you doing?" Thanasis asked. Giannis smiled softly. "Something we haven't done in a while." He dribbled once. The sound echoed through the room, thump, 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 like a heartbeat returning to life. "Remember this sound?" he asked. Thanasis blinked. "Of course I do." "Then listen." Giannis tossed the ball to him. Thanasis caught it with shaky hands, the movement awkward but real. He looked down at the ball, then back at his brother. "This is who we are," Giannis said. "Not pain, not fear, not broken bodies, just two kids who refuse to stop playing." Thanasis laughed through tears. "You're crazy!" Giannis grinned. "Always have been." For the first time in weeks, they trained that day not as patient and caretaker, but as brothers again. It wasn't about walking. It was about remembering why they had to. And when the day ended, something invisible had shifted. The despair hadn't vanished. It never does. But hope had quietly returned, steady and real, like the sound of a ball bouncing in an empty gym after everyone else has gone home. It happened quietly, without warning. No cameras, no audience, just a cold morning, a low sun, and the smell of salt drifting in from the sea. Dr. Moreno had ordered another balance exercise. Thanasis stood between two parallel bars, braces on his legs. Giannis crouched in front of him like a coach before a final play. The therapist counted softly in Greek. 1, 2, 3. For weeks, they had repeated the same movement: lift, shift, breathe, fail. The rhythm of disappointment had become familiar, almost predictable. But that day, something changed. Thanasis looked at his brother and saw something in his eyes that he hadn't noticed in a while. Peace. Giannis wasn't pushing, wasn't commanding. He was simply there, present, steady. "Ready?" Giannis asked. Thanasis nodded. He tightened his grip on the bars, pressed his feet against the ground and exhaled. At first, nothing. Then, a tremor. A twitch in the right leg. The muscles fired, electricity flickering through nerves that had been silent for months. Giannis saw it first. "Wait, do that again." Thanasis tried. Another twitch. Stronger this time. Dr. Moreno's eyes widened. "Oh, keep going, Thanasis. You're doing it." He didn't believe her until he felt it. Weight shifting, knees stiffening, the faint pressure of his own body holding itself up. For 2 heartbeats he was standing, not supported, not held. Standing. Giannis froze. His breath caught in his throat. "Bro." Thanasis looked down, disbelief flooding his face. "I'm standing?" The therapist nodded, hands trembling. "Yes, you are." Giannis's eyes filled instantly. He let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob, collapsing forward to hug his brother's waist. The entire room went silent, except for the soft clicking of the machines and the uneven breaths of 2 men who refused to quit. Thanasis began to cry, not out of pain, but out of memory. Every step they had ever taken together, from the cracked courts of Sepolia to the blinding lights of Milwaukee, came rushing back in one instant. "I told you," Giannis whispered, his forehead pressed against his brother's chest. "The fire was real." From that moment, every day felt different. Thanasis walked again 2 days later, 5 steps, then 10. Each one was a battle, each one a victory. The staff started keeping count on a whiteboard in the hallway. Day 104, 6 steps. Day 112, 12. Giannis turned those numbers into mantras. He'd whisper them before bed like prayers. 6, 12, 20, soon 30. The progress was slow, uneven, but relentless. Every failure was followed by a new attempt, every tremor a celebration. One afternoon, Giannis brought a speaker into the rehab room and played an old Nigerian gospel song their mother used to hum while cooking. The rhythm filled the air, soft drums, clapping hands, voices rising. Dr. Moreno smiled. "What's this?" "Home," Giannis said simply. Thanasis laughed through exhaustion. "You're gonna make me dance before I can walk." Giannis grinned. "Exactly." He held out his hand. "Come on." One step, I got you. And in that small white room under fluorescent light, the two brothers began to move. One step, then another, then another. Not perfect, not steady, but real. Outside the door, nurses gathered quietly, some with phones, some just holding their breath. When Thanasis completed a full circle around the bars without falling, the entire hallway erupted into applause. He leaned against Giannis, shaking, laughing, crying all at once. "You see that?" Giannis nodded, his voice breaking. "I saw everything." That night, when the city fell asleep, Giannis walked alone to the edge of the facility again. The moonlight shimmered over the water, and for the first time since that awful night in Milwaukee, he let himself smile without guilt. He pulled out his phone and texted Dr. Harris back in the US, the man who once told them the odds were near impossible. "He's walking." No emojis, no punctuation, just truth. Minutes later, the doctor replied, "Miracles happen when brothers refuse to stop believing." Giannis looked up at the stars, the same sky they'd once prayed under as children. "No," he whispered, "miracles happen when love doesn't give up." He turned back toward the building, where Thanasis was asleep, exhausted but alive, legs wrapped in braces that no longer felt like prison bars, but like armor. For the first time, Giannis allowed himself to believe what everyone else had doubted from the start. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were coming back. 6 months after the fall, Athens woke to a spring morning painted in gold. The air was soft, the sea calm, and for the first time since that night in Milwaukee, laughter filled the rehabilitation center. Thanasis was standing without help now, not perfectly, not always steady, but standing. His steps were sure enough to echo in the hallway, his shoulders straight, his eyes full of something that looked like freedom. Dr. Moreno stood near the door, arms crossed, watching with a smile. "You realize," she said to Giannis, "most patients with injuries like his never walk again. What he's doing now," Giannis interrupted gently, "he's not most patients." Thanasis laughed, overhearing. "You make it sound like I'm a superhero." Giannis grinned. "You are. Just the low-budget version. Then you're my sidekick," Thanasis shot back. Their laughter filled the room like sunlight. But that morning, there was something new in the air. Anticipation. Dr. Moreno had planned a final test, a light training session at a local gym. Not just therapy, but motion. Basketball motion. They arrived early. The place was empty except for the sound of birds outside and the faint hum of ceiling lights. The wooden floor gleamed under the morning sun, freshly polished, waiting. Giannis wheeled out a cart of basketballs. He picked one up, spinning it lightly in his palm. "Remember this sound?" Thanasis nodded, eyes glistening. "It's been too long." He stood carefully, using the wall for balance. Giannis rolled the ball toward him. It bumped softly against his shoes. Thanasis bent, slowly, painfully, and picked it up. The leather felt heavy in his hands, unfamiliar yet sacred. Giannis moved to the other side of the court. "Let's see if the hoop remembers you." Thanasis laughed nervously. "If I miss, it's because of physics, not skill." "Sure," Giannis said, smiling. "Blame physics." Thanasis steadied himself, legs trembling. He lifted the ball, exhaled, and released. The sound, that perfect swish, echoed across the gym. Nothing else existed for that 1 second. Giannis threw both arms in the air and shouted, the sound half laughter, half disbelief. "He's back! He's back!" Thanasis stood frozen, staring at the hoop, tears streaming down his face. I did it." Giannis ran to him, pulled him into a hug so tight it almost hurt. "No, we did it." That clip would later go viral. Two brothers alone in a sunlit gym in Athens, one standing for the first time, the other crying harder than he ever had after any championship. But in that moment, there were no cameras, no fame. Only the quiet joy of something holy. recovery. A few weeks later, they flew back to Milwaukee. The team was waiting, coaches, teammates, staff, all lined up at the practice facility. When Thanasis walked in without the wheelchair, the room erupted. Applause, shouts, tears. Coach Griffin stepped forward, voice shaking. "We saved a locker for you." Giannis laughed. "Told you he'd need it." Reporters flooded the press conference that followed. Questions about the injury, the therapy, the sacrifice. Giannis answered all of them the same way. It was never about basketball. It was about family. Thanasis added quietly, "Basketball is what we do, but family is who we are." Their return game came months later. The Bucks arena was packed, the crowd a sea of green and white signs reading, "Welcome back, Thanasis." The noise was deafening. When he checked in midway through the second quarter, the arena rose to its feet. The sound was less like applause and more like gratitude, a collective heartbeat for a story they had all lived through from afar. Giannis stood near half-court, waiting. He pointed to his brother, the same way he did years ago in Greece when they were nobodies. Two kids dreaming of a future they couldn't yet see. Thanasis took the pass, dribbled once, drove to the basket, and finished with a soft layup. Nothing fancy, no highlight reel, but to them, it felt like the championship of the world. The crowd exploded. Giannis raised both arms, screaming his brother's name. Players from both teams clapped. Even the opposing coach stood, smiling. When the buzzer ended the game, Thanasis was mobbed by teammates. Cameras swarmed, reporters shouted, flashbulbs blinded. But when the noise finally faded, Giannis and Thanasis found each other in the middle of the court, the same place where the nightmare began. Giannis whispered in his ear, barely audible over the chants. "You stood again. You kept your promise." Thanasis smiled. "No, bro, we did." And as confetti began to fall from the rafters, Giannis looked up, not at the lights or the cameras, but at the ceiling itself, as if through it he could see their father smiling somewhere above. The arena lights glowed against his tear-filled eyes. This time, it wasn't victory they were celebrating. It was resurrection. Months passed, and the story of the Antetokounmpo brothers spread far beyond basketball. It wasn't about stats, championships, or highlight reels anymore. It was about love that refused to surrender. Sports networks replayed the moment over and over again. Thanasis taking that first step on his own, Giannis watching with tears in his eyes. But for the brothers, that scene wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something greater. 2 months after returning to Milwaukee, Giannis called a press conference, not in an arena, but in a community gym on the west side of the city, the same kind of place where they'd once trained barefoot in Athens. Behind him hung a simple banner, the Brotherhood Foundation. He took the microphone, voice steady but full of emotion. "When my brother got hurt," he began, "we realized how fragile everything is, how quickly what you love can disappear. But we also learned something stronger, that love, real love, doesn't stop at fear, at pain, or even at the impossible." He paused, eyes scanning the small crowd, reporters, fans, families of injured athletes sitting in the front row. The Brotherhood Foundation will support athletes facing spinal injuries and trauma recovery. We'll fund new therapy programs, the same ones that helped Thanasis stand again. And we'll make sure no one goes through that fight alone. The room went silent. Then slowly, applause began to build, not explosive like an arena cheer, but deep, human, honest. Thanasis stepped up beside him. "We're not doctors. We're not miracle workers," he said softly. "We're just proof that miracles start when someone refuses to walk away." They launched the foundation with their own money first. No sponsors, no PR campaigns, just a promise. Within a year, donations poured in from fans around the world. NBA players, soccer stars, Olympic athletes, everyone wanted to be part of it. They built their first rehabilitation center back in Athens, just blocks away from the court where they once played barefoot. The walls were white, bright, filled with sunlight. On one side of the lobby, a mural stretched across the entire wall. Two boys running through the streets of Sepolia, a single basketball between them. Above it, the words written in Greek, "When one brother falls, the other becomes his legs." Families began arriving from all over Europe, parents carrying children, athletes who had lost movement, soldiers recovering from accidents. Some came just to meet the brothers, others came because they had no hope left. Giannis spent hours at the center whenever he returned to Greece. He'd walk into the therapy rooms quietly, sit beside the patients, listen to their stories. He didn't talk about basketball anymore. He talked about pain, patience, faith. One afternoon, a young boy named Andreas, just 10 years old, paralyzed after a car accident, looked up at Giannis and whispered, "Do you think I'll walk again?" Giannis smiled gently. "If you keep believing, one day you'll run past me." Thanasis walked in moments later, leaning on a cane, still not perfect, but proud. The boy's eyes widened. "You're the one from the video, the one who stood up again." Thanasis laughed, kneeling down beside him. "That's me, but I didn't do it alone. No one ever does." The boy smiled for the first time in months. By the second anniversary of the accident, the story had reached every corner of the sports world. Documentaries were made, news anchors spoke of the brothers who turned tragedy into triumph. But for Giannis, fame had never felt so small, and purpose never so big. He returned one evening to that same cracked court in Sepolia. The air was warm, filled with the scent of grilled food and laughter. Kids were playing pickup games until sunset, shouting, fighting for rebounds like he once did. Thanasis stood beside him, watching. "You know," he said, "it's funny. We chased greatness our whole lives. Turns out greatness was never out there." Giannis smiled. It was right here all along. A little boy approached them shyly, holding a torn basketball. "Can you play with us?" Giannis looked at Thanasis, who grinned. "You up for it?" Thanasis shrugged. "Only if we play on the same team." And so they did. Two grown men, laughing, running, playing barefoot once again under the same flickering streetlight that had watched them grow. Later that night, as the court emptied and the moon climbed high above the city, Giannis sat on the bench, sweat still glistening on his arms. He looked at his brother, smiling, tired, alive. "You realize," he said, "we could have lost everything." Thanasis nodded. "We did. And somehow, we found more." Giannis leaned back, gazing at the stars. "Yeah, we found what really matters." In that quiet Athens night, the same streets that once echoed with hunger now echoed with gratitude. The brothers who had climbed from poverty to glory had discovered a higher form of victory, one not written on scoreboards, but carved into hearts. And as the last lights of the city dimmed, their laughter carried through the wind, soft, eternal, like a promise fulfilled. Because in the end, this was never just about basketball. It was about love that stands when everything else falls. It was about family and the kind of brotherhood that turns pain into legacy. There are moments in life when the scoreboard doesn't matter. When the crowd is gone, the lights are off, and all that's left is silence, the kind that asks who you really are when no one's watching. For years, I thought victory was measured in points, trophies, and headlines. But I was wrong. True victory happens in the quiet moments, in a hospital hallway, in a whispered prayer, in a trembling hand that refuses to let go. When Thanasis fell, I thought I lost everything. But what I really lost was the illusion that greatness was something you could hold. It's not. It's something you give. I saw my brother fight pain that would break most men. I saw him stare into the darkness and still reach for light. And in his fight, I learned what strength truly means. Not muscles, not medals, but love that endures. We grew up believing that basketball could save us, that if we played hard enough, ran fast enough, dreamed big enough, we could escape the streets that tried to swallow us. But the truth is, basketball didn't save us. Family did. When I left the NBA to take care of my brother, people said I was throwing away my legacy. They were wrong again. That was my legacy. Because when everything you have is on the line and you still choose love, that's the game you can never lose. I used to chase applause. Now I chase peace. I used to play for the crowd. Now I play for something that never fades, for the sound of my brother's footsteps beside mine, for the laughter that survived the silence, for the promise we made under the same Greek sky we were born beneath. Every scar tells a story, every tear marks a turning point, and every fall, if met with love, becomes another reason to rise. People ask me what I remember most from that time. It's not the hospital machines, not the headlines, not even the first steps. It's a simple moment. The sound of a basketball bouncing on the floor after months of silence. That sound meant life. It meant hope. It meant we're still here. And maybe that's the lesson, that the greatest victory isn't about how high you jump or how far you go. It's about who stands beside you when you fall. Thanasis taught me that. He reminded me that no matter how far we climb, we always rise together. And when one of us can't walk, the other becomes his legs. So when you see us on the court again, don't just see two players. See two souls who went through the fire and came out whole. See brothers, see faith, see proof that love can rebuild what pain tries to destroy. Because in the end, championships fade. Records get broken, fame disappears. But what remains, what always remains, is love. That's the real game. And that's the one we'll keep playing for the rest of our lives. Because when everything else is gone, when the lights go out and the noise disappears, you'll remember the ones who stood by you. You'll remember the hands that lifted you, the hearts that refused to let go. You'll remember that the greatest victory you'll ever have is the one you win together, dedicated to everyone who refuses to give up on family. Beyond the game.